Are you looking for a new cinematic universe to follow now that the MCU has been put on hold? Are the DCEU movies just not doing it for you anymore? Did you know there's another place to follow your favorite DC characters? This is the DCAMU, DC Animated Movie Universe. There are 14, yes, you heard me right, 14 unique movies that have an array of DC characters spread throughout them that continue one narrative which will culminate in the upcoming Justice League Dark Apokolips War. Now that you know what to do, don't waste any time. Go on those interwebs and start streaming. Sponsored by Local Touch Online, a free online magazine that has an exclusive article by Pop Culture Geekery every month. Also sponsored by Game House in New Braunfels. They offer plenty of gaming space for tabletop products, minis custom painted, video games, custom 3D printing, Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, and D&D, of which they are currently offering online sessions during the social distancing times. Contact them on Facebook to reserve your session today. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Geekery. I'm Joe Solis, and today we're going to do part 2 of our Countdown to Apokolips War series. So I just wanted to come on real quick and let you guys know, obviously we have to do a different format for this because of the current quarantine. And I really wanted to keep my co-hosts coming on here, so we actually found an online recording service that we really like. So as we do these, I'll probably start with an intro like this, just to remind you that this is not the normal format for the show, and because normally we film in our little makeshift studio here, but it has worked out pretty well, and the last video was pretty well received. So if you didn't check out part 1, it's going to be in the links below, but let's move on here to part 2.
Oh my god, trying to write down stuff.
Actually, at first, I was going to watch Son of Batman either on Plex or somewhere else, and then I was like, wait a second. And I went and looked at my Blu-rays, and I'm like, oh, I actually have this one.
Yeah, I kind of wish I did too, because sometimes the quality can get kind of, you've seen it dicey, and
oh, yeah.
just like,
Throne of Atlantis was bad. I was just like, I just pushed through it because I was like, I don't have another way to get it right now. So...
mine was, like I said, it kept... Oh, go ahead.
Hold on a second. I think somebody's at my door. Jeez. Hold on. Let me just go see it. I'm going to... Don't freak out when the camera stops for a second, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, that's cool.
Hey, Joe, you just walked 10 feet. Why are you breathing so hard?
Joe's not here anymore. So I came.
Sure, someone's at your door.
I came to hear that you're going to review one of my movies today. So I just wanted to make sure you're going to give me a fair share, right, Roy? I need you to just do one thing for me, Roy. I need you to swear to God that you're gonna do this right. That you're gonna give me a fair shot. Say it.
I'll give you a fair shot.
No, say swear to God.
I swear to God, I'll give you a fair shot.
No, swear to me.
That's pretty good, Joe. Good job. I mean, Batman. That's good, Batman.
Yeah, I don't know the hell was at my door, man. I'm just kids, bored, just knocking on the door, running away. Did anything happen while I was gone?
No, it just went blind.
Oh, okay.
You saw that video, the Jawa, the Star Wars one?
Oh, yes.
That was awesome. I was like, Joe, it's Jawa's Joe. What is your Stormtrooper outfit?
Oh, man, I've wanted a Stormtrooper outfit forever and a day. I could have used it when we did Star Wars Day at our store.
Yep.
Since I couldn't get anybody to come to it.
That's awesome.
Anyway. All right, so as you guys saw in the intro, we're going to continue on with our countdown to Apokolips War. And so today we're going to go over Son of Batman, and then we're going to do Throne of Atlantis after that. So I know you said you did some notes this time too. Did you want to take us into this one? Because that's pretty much what I did. I took it, as we go through the movie, I kind of made some general summary notes. So
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So, Son of Batman. This one was 2014. Again, this one was cast by the voice casting was by Andrea Romano. I believe I'm saying that right. And this was written by Jeff Johns and Ivan Rice or Reese. I can't remember how they pronounce his name, but he's done a lot of really good stuff like Blackest Night along with Jeff Johns. So really good writing for this one. This one, Son of Batman, we get basically a little snippet of Batman's life outside of Justice League. We are introduced to his son, Damian. He learns he has a son. The voice casting on this one, again, because it's Andrea Romano, is absolutely amazing. You've got Jason O'Mara, who is extremely talented and actually took over for Kevin Conroy for the next couple films, actually. He did Hush, he did Justice League Dark, Teen Titans, Death of Superman. It was a really good update, I guess, to Kevin Conroy. I really didn't think there could be anyone that replaced him, but he did amazing. So in this, though, we basically learn the story about who Damian is, kind of his backstory. We see some surprising deaths in this one, and what it's like for Damian Wayne to straddle the line between what it means to be Ra's al Ghul's grandson and Bruce Wayne's son. And we just kind of follow him as he hunts down and kind of learns the ropes, those that are responsible for a very important death in this movie. And so that's where we're at in this one.
Which obviously spoilers, because again, it's come out since 2014. So I actually had this one. Like I was telling you earlier, I forgot that I actually bought it on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. So I guess I was just picking and choosing while they were coming out which ones to get to actually own. But so yeah, we can talk about the different deaths, like I said, because we're going to be talking about spoilers. But it starts with the assault on Ra's al Ghul's headquarters, of course, high in the mountains, and it's the League of Assassins is attacked by assassins, which are led by Deathstroke. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they tie in Deathstroke to the League of Assassins. I don't remember if that was an older idea or a newer idea. They all start to blend together after a while.
Yeah, I wasn't this also was kind of a eye patch Deathstroke. We learn how he gets that scar, kind of, an homage to what was it, Captain Marvel with Nick Fury. It's kind of one of those things. You learn about how did Deathstroke lose his eye. So that was interesting. He's definitely a rookie in this one. It seems like a lot earlier on in his career, but which kind of led to a good story.
Yeah. It's like anytime you give a character an eye patch now, everybody just has to know how they got that.
How did you get those scars? Oh wait, wrong movie.
Yep. But yeah, we, like you said, we get introduced to Damian, whose mother is Talia al Ghul, whose father is Ra's al Ghul. So you got the nice little family there. And I remember when Damian was first introduced, I didn't get the chance to read the early issues where he was introduced.
Yeah, neither.
But as we stated in the last video, all these ideas are based on DC's The New 52 continuity that they started in 2011.
Right.
So the funny thing about The New 52 was that they picked and chose what they wanted to keep from the old continuity. And one of the surviving things was the Batman mythos, as well as Green Lantern. I don't remember exactly which other ones carried over, but I remember those were the two big ones. Because Damian was introduced before the New 52, and he just pretty much carried over into the New 52. And I remember, a lot of people were split on whether or not they liked him. I really like him. I think he's a great different take on Robin. He's basically a mini Bruce Wayne.
He's basically his clone. I like him a lot too. I mean, his personality, his character. He's so dark, but he's also so funny because of how he just insults everybody he talks to. He talks to everyone like he is superior to them, and of course, after being raised for all that time under, that kind of scrutiny by Ra's al Ghul to basically take over the League of Assassins, which actually is a kind of a big plot to this. The whole reason Deathstroke actually attacks Ra's al Ghul is because he has named Ra's al Ghul has named Damien as his successor. And we also learned that Ra's has a son. I didn't know Ra's had a son, if that was always a thing, but or if that was like what that was, because Talia does say, they talk real quick right before he's killed, actually, and they mention that they're siblings, basically. And he's older, which is even weirder because I know Ra's does the Lazarus Pit, but yeah, they
Wait,
actually kill him.
wait, who? Who are you talking about?
There is a character they introduced when they attack the compound. He looks a lot like Roz. I mean, he would have to. And Talia says something like "our father," or maybe the brother says it, "our father," something, and they kill him. He's the first guy they kill, but he calls him father. So I don't know if that's his son in this 52 universe. I don't know who the character was, but he dies right at the beginning. He's the first one killed.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they did that so fast because I didn't even catch that at all.
Yeah. I mean, he's a spitting image of Roz. If anything, he could have been a body double for him or something. But I mean, he's got the goatee and everything, same hairstyle, but he's older than Roz, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, they take him out first. And the story is the whole reason he's attacking. They're betrayed by one of their own, one of Roz's own men. I guess he's like a number one guy or something like that. And Deathstroke is basically pissed that he was replaced by Damian Wayne. So his target the whole time is to kill Damian, which, by the way, is played by Stuart Allen, who goes on to play Damian in pretty much the rest of these movies. He's an amazing voice actor. He's got a couple credits here and there. Relatively young, but he does an amazing. He's perfectly cast for Damian Wayne. He's just got that sense of entitlement and confidence that the character really needed. So kudos to that guy for playing that role real well.
When you talked about Deathstroke losing his eye, did you mention it was Damien who did it?
Yeah. So in that confrontation at the very beginning, I didn't mention it, but in the very beginning, yeah, he does. He basically loses an eye with his first confrontation with Damien, and it kind of sets the whole target on Damien's back, basically, not only for being the heir to the throne, but also for taking his eye. And Deathstroke is a very proud and very strong warrior, so I'm sure that was an insult to be defeated that way by a child, no less his successor.
And they end up killing Ra's al Ghul here at the beginning, which I made a note about it, but I was like, I couldn't remember if he comes back later, but he never does.
I don't think we see him again till, and I don't even know if it's the same universe, until we see Ninja Turtles. So, but I mean, I always thought even in death he could come back. At least that was the understanding I had, that he's died a couple times and been put in the Lazarus Pit. He just loses more of his humanity when that happens. So that was an interesting take on that. I might be wrong, but I thought that he could be put in the pit even after death. That was kind of the whole trick to it. That he's died several times and he just keeps coming back.
No, I think they did have it to where there was a I don't know if they ever covered that it basically would come back as a zombie or anything like that. But I feel like I've heard that somewhere too, and it kind of makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things, kind of like, again, we were talking about last video about, this set of movies is supposed to be like the beginning of a new universe.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, how much would you appreciate this if you didn't know that? Like to somebody who just started at Flashpoint and they watch this and Raza dies, they're like, oh well, that was the grandfather, Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about that. And I started looking through the complete list of DC animated movies, which is of course the ones that don't fall in this continuity. But I might make a more comprehensive list that maybe we can cover to see Like you might have to even start, although I still would recommend not starting with Superman Doomsday. Was that the original one? Or it was just,
Yeah,
I
we
still
can
would leave
skip that
that one
one.
out.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend that one didn't exist.
I think you would actually start, if you wanted to start in order and just skip that one. I was just looking back today, is Justice League New Frontier,
That was
which
good.
is, yeah, and that one, of course, is done in the old style, so it's kind of happening in the past anyway, so it
Yeah.
kind of sets up everything. But we'll see. I'll do some better research, and maybe we can talk about that in a future episode. But you want to take us into Gotham now? Because apparently that's what happens after the assault on his citadel.
Yeah, so basically, Talia turns to, or makes the decision to go ahead and introduce Bruce Wayne, or AKA Batman, to his son Damian. And it's a kind of a funny introduction. You know, he's just like, honestly, believe me, expecting to believe this is my son. And when he sees him, I mean, it's a spitting image of him. And Alfred actually comments on that later, that he basically looks just like Bruce Wayne as a kid, which is fantastic. And so she wants to go ahead and start rebuilding the League of Assassins and also go after Deathstroke. And so she fills him in onto what happened, tells him that Ra's al Ghul is dead, and basically leaves Damian with Batman. So he ends up taking him back to Wayne Manor and the Batcave, and of course, Damian, being Damian, basically just makes fun of all his equipment, his Batcave. He even tells Batman when he meets him, "I thought you'd be taller." Seems to be like a running thing with Batman for some reason. Every time someone hears him, they're like, "I thought you'd be taller," and I've noticed that in some of these films. But yeah, takes him back, meets Alfred. Alfred kind of breaks him in, and of course he takes over the manor. He keeps calling Alfred a servant, which is hilarious. Again, like Jason O'Mara, again, his voice is so good for this this Batman, this iteration of Batman. He just has, I don't know, he really took on the cowl and made it his own. And I just have to give him credit for that again. Another great voice casting for this was, and I can never say her last name right, Morena Baccarin. She is probably most known for her role in Serenity, as well as Gotham. She played Leslie Tompkins in that one, and her character is pretty much what you expect from Talia, or however you say her name. Some people describe it differently, but she did a great job and really embraced the character in this. So, anyways, they go back to Gotham, and Batman pretty much tells Damian, stay put while I go, do my thing or whatever. And Damian, being Damian again, breaks protocol, and his whole thing is he wants revenge. He wants revenge for his grandfather. He wants to take out the guy that betrayed them, as well as Deathstroke. And so that's where we kind of see his mission, like what he's up to.
Yeah, and during that time, they do show Killer Croc shows up.
Oh yeah,
and he was a really cool design. And according to Batman, I guess that was a mutated design because he was like the tail's new.
Yeah, and they get into the story of that with Kirk Langstrom later.
Yeah, that was the other thing that I didn't realize at first, because they start off by showing Langstrom's daughter Rebecca, who I actually thought was going to be. Shows you how long it's been since I've seen this movie, even though I own it. Right. I thought she was going to be another new character from one of the more recent runs, because she kind of looks like her, and I'll put a picture of her up because I cannot remember her name, but I remember it's
the bird character. Yeah.
I don't want to misquote her name, but I remember it was bird themed, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't mention that his last name was Langstrom until later. Right. So then I was like, oh yeah, that's the Man Bat. And when they're going through the Bat Cave, there was one interesting thing that they changed, which they could have left in, but when Damian looks at the famous Robin outfit under glass, traditionally that's the Jason Todd outfit.
Right.
So in every iteration, including the DCEU movies, that's supposed to signify that there was a Jason Todd in this universe, and he did still die at the Joker's hands. It's like all that is told in that one shot in most stories.
Right.
But later you find out that that actually belonged to Dick Grayson,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was an interesting change because they could have left it. I mean, there is another DC movie called Under the Red Hood, which covers Jason Todd. So, and I don't know if Jason Todd comes out later in the ones we're going to review or not. I don't think he did have a New 52 title called Red Hood and the Outlaws, but I don't think they got represented here. I could be wrong. We'll find out as we go forward. So, but yeah, I definitely loved Alfred's dry humor. I love that he had the trouble with Damien,
Yeah.
and
and
even when Damien threatened him, he was like, "And I'm too old to care," or something like that.
He's like, "I'm old enough to recognize sarcasm, but I'm too old enough to care."
Yeah.
That was a great line. Yeah, there's some great lines. Damien, for all his seriousness, he's actually kind of the comedy relief in this one. He just says really snarky, funny things, very under his breath, but with so much confidence that you can't help but laugh at the character. I was going to say that one of the other cool voice casting things on this, Langstrom was actually voiced by Carrie Payton, the guy who plays on Walking Dead. He plays King Ezekiel. So that was kind of cool. I always love learning who these voices are because I'm so terrible at guessing them. But that was kind of a neat little... I was like, oh wow, that I didn't even recognize him, so that was kind of cool. And Thomas Gibson from Criminal Minds, and you might remember from Dharma and Greg, he played Deathstroke, which I thought he did a really good job too. I was really surprised.
Well, doesn't Giancarlo Esposito?
Yes.
Doesn't he play Ra's al Ghul?
He's Ra's al Ghul, yeah, and everybody knows him from Breaking Bad, and I mean he's just got a huge credit of just amazing roles, iconic roles recently in Mandalorian as Moff Gideon. I mean, he's such a great actor, and so to get him to play Roz was, I mean, I almost say that might actually be the perfect casting for him too. He did such a great job on that one.
Yeah, I mean, if they needed a live action Roz later on, they should totally do him because But, so I know. So Deathstroke ends up capturing Talia. When Batman's interrogating Killer Croc.
Yeah.
Do you remember him ripping his tail off?
He rips his tail, yeah. And that was really cool. And that's kind of where they talk about, they kind of introduce the fact that it's Kurt Langstrom that's responsible for that. We learn that that's who it is. And they reveal, and later on, he does mention that he's no longer Man-Bat, but he still makes the mutagen. He's basically being forced to by Ra's al Ghul, and is surprised that Deathstroke comes in and basically just tells him, make it or die, we're going to kill your family kind of thing, which was, he was just like, what's going on? And he's like, well, he's been retired. And I'm like, oh, wow, that is pretty dark, but cool. But yeah, so we learned that's Kurt Langstrom.
And see, I don't know why I'm so hung up on this. It just bothers me because it's like, okay, so there was a Man-Bat in the past in this world, like he's already dealt with him.
Yeah, apparently there is, because you see them, they see the army later, but yeah, he even admits to it. He's like, I know, I'm no longer doing that, basically. I no longer am Man-Bat, but he's more just a scientist now. Yeah,
because when Batman sees the creatures later, he calls them that right away, like as if he recognizes them. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. I think that's why so many people got frustrated with the New 52, because it's like they were just picking and choosing what they wanted, and then eventually it all goes back to the way it was anyway. So,
right. And I'm wondering if they figured, let's just do that because we're gonna put it back anyways. But I mean, I didn't have so much a problem with it because honestly, I hadn't really read much of DC for a while until they did the 52 stuff, and I mean, they did it right. And I guess everyone, they get tired. I don't know. I don't, especially if it brings in Jim Lee. But when they kind of revamp the universe, it did its job. I mean, I got back into it, and I hadn't been reading them for a while. So, not that they weren't good. I just lost interest. But when I heard about all this 52 stuff, I was like, oh wow. And then Jim Lee, I was like, oh wow. And they seem to really kind of breathe life into it again. And we got some really great stories out of it. I mean, I don't want to say to me it's like an Elseworlds, but it is. It's an Elseworlds to me. It's an Elseworlds story. It was just another what if kind of thing. So I enjoyed it, but I'm not as hardcore as I used to be into the comic book. So I get it with the complaints. But I thought, if anything else, we got some really good animated movies out of this whole 52 thing. So I'm okay with it.
I guess in general, because, I cannot remember which creator said it, maybe Grant Morrison, I don't know,
Hmm.
about that this is like the modern mythology, is what
Yeah.
we've built, but it's only been built over the last 80 years.
Right.
But and of course, if you take world mythology, like Greek or
Hmm.
Roman or anything like that, of course there's variations, but it's like there's always that running thread through all of them that okay, this is the story of Hermes, this is the story of
Right.
Apollo, it's like of Hercules, and you can do different interpretations, I guess, just because those have lasted for centuries versus just 80 years. And like you say, maybe people's attention spans, you got to keep doing new stuff
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
even in that time, everybody knows a lot of these characters, especially the top two, or three, Wonder
Mm.
Woman, Batman, and Superman
Right.
are world recognized. So yeah, I mean, it's always a balance, I guess, to decide what to do to keep them interesting and keep people reading.
Right. Oh, well, actually, and
So,
even in the next film in Justice League Throne of Atlantis that we're going to review, Wonder Woman actually mentions that this is what it must have been like to be the gods of old, like, and they're looking over the city and stuff. So I thought it was an interesting nod to that. Now that you say that, so that's fun.
well, let's see here. We had Damien face the one random guy named Ubu.
Yeah, never heard of him. Yeah,
I know, right? But he donned some Wolverine claws in order to fight
yeah,
Damien.
yeah. That was
Um,
interesting. I love that when he tells the women in the apartment, "Harlots, leave."
oh
I
yes,
love his old man. Like he's so old, but he's a kid.
yes.
But that was great. I was like, that was funny.
That is a good way to say it. Yeah, he definitely
Yeah,
has an old soul, but it's because he
yeah,
was taught by somebody who was centuries old.
yeah.
So.
And you can see it. Yeah, you can only imagine what kind of music he listens to. Oh my god.
uh, I love the introduction of Nightwing into
Oh
this.
yeah, that was great.
How he ends up, he fights Damien, but we don't see the fight. We see the aftermath, which is just
Yeah, yeah.
Nightwing all messed up.
Which is actually kind of funny. Like, and I'll skip ahead here real quick. In the very end, in the end credits, you see the fight between him and Damien, which was hilarious. But I love the nod to the whole, you know, I remember who won that fight, or you lost that fight. He tells Damien after all his brash and stuff. He's like, oh, and he can't. He has nothing. Damien's just standing there like, oh damn. He's like, yeah,
Yeah, and so Damien, of his own accord decides to become the new Robin, which is really cool. They kept his design from the comics pretty well. He's got
yeah,
even that little, I don't
yeah.
know,
He
is it like a
still
furry
kind of
piece or
has.
something?
Yeah, it's still he still has kind of reminiscent pieces of even this costume a little bit. It's a little bit different, but yeah. Yeah, he lost the fur on it. I was at first I didn't know what that was. I was like, What are those extra little pieces?" And then upon closer inspection, I was like, "Oh, okay. He's got like a, I don't know, yeah, like some kind of fur hood. I don't know what that's supposed to be."
But but yeah, I didn't really have too much at the end. That it became really, like we talked about, really fighty there towards the end. Because it was
Yeah,
like they basically descend upon that oil rig where I guess they're harvesting the Lazarus pit, or at
yeah,
least housing it there,
right.
or one of them, because I guess there's plenty around the world. Um, but there at the end, Nightwing just is basically the retrieval guy. He's just flying the black bat plane around. Oh, I didn't talk about the bat stuff in this. I really like the Batmobile design in this one.
Oh yeah, it was a
It
nod.
it
It was yeah. Go ahead.
it always no, I was just gonna say, it always seems like whenever you have a new movie of any kind, animated or live action, it's like everybody's like, okay, I get to design the Batmobile, I get to design
Exactly.
a bat plane, and then,
Yeah,
like, if they're really really nice, maybe they'll give me the bat cycle, but we didn't
yeah,
get that this time. But for sure, you always get the Batmobile and bat plane. So
yeah. And they were really good. I love the designs. I'm trying to remember which book that was from. If it was from that same book, or if they got to redesign it, because it was really cool. It had like that double canopy looking thing, and I love again the humor with Damien. I'll drive. No, it's just Batman just constantly throughout the whole film. It's just this. Just the repertoire between him and Batman is fantastic.
mhm.
He is Batman's son.
I guess we can wrap this one up, unless you have anything else to add.
Let's see. No, I think we pretty much covered most of the stuff that I was going to say. Again, this was just really well done as far as the voice casting. And I guess we can get into the ratings. Yes, it gets really fighty. you see Batman basically whoop, if I can say that, he whoops his butt pretty easily. I was really surprised on that. And then you get a nice little showdown between Damian and Deathstroke, and for all intents and purposes, it looked like Deathstroke died here because he basically blows up in the underwater and all that. So if he got out of that, I mean, I know he's always prepared, but good.
He'll get better.
Yeah, it was just a flesh wound. But yeah, he kicks his butt, and but I love how Deathstroke doesn't hold back on Damian. He's pretty much matched toe for toe. So the fights are good. You do get to see Batman put Talia into the Lazarus pit. I'm guessing for the first time in this universe, and seeing the effects of that. And then ultimately, she ends up leaving Damian with Batman. She wants to take him back in the end to groom him to be the successor he was born to be, that his grandfather wanted him to be. But Bruce or Batman says, I think it's better if he stays here. And ultimately she decides to leave him there. And this is where their Batman, Robin, father-son relationship really seems to start and become a thing for the new universe. But yeah, that's what I've got on that.
So on our rating system, as you guys know, we do 1 out of 10, 5 being an average movie, not necessarily as harsh as it is at other sites. But I'm just going to settle on a solid 8 out of 10 for this one.
I agree.
You think it was, that's what you're going to go for as well?
Yeah.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, the animation was really good. The story was okay. The animation, I gave it a 10. That was one of the first things that just popped out to me, was the animation was so good in this. And apparently this, I didn't realize, I never checked, I guess. It's done overseas. It's so clean. The line work is so good. The I guess how they color it, the paints, however they do it now, it's beautiful. It's subtle and it's just amazing. And then art direction is also just superb. And then again, voice casting really, really good. I think what weakened it was, it just wasn't as strong as maybe some of the other ones, but it was still enjoyable. I liked the fighting. The choreography was great. They're breaking bones, and ninjas. Come on, you got ninjas. So, yeah, ultimately, I agree. It was an 8. It was good. I enjoyed it, but not as strong as some of the others.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned it, but it is PG-13.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of blood splats. I don't know how to say it. Like the blood never lands anywhere, but it's always sprayed in the air.
when in the very opening, when Talia takes a shotgun and blows away those intruders, I was like, oh, that is PG-13. It was point blank too, just boom, boom, and they're just taking out ninjas and whatever those guys, invaders, are supposed to be. Left and right. It was all out warfare and blood everywhere. It was great.
I believe their first name is Cannon, last name Fodder.
There you go. So. There you go. Yeah, red shirts, bunch of red shirts.
Exactly.
It was, man, it was crazy. It was a great battle, but yeah, a lot of fights.
But yeah, we can go on and move on to the next one. And would you believe there's another person at the front door? I will be right back.
Jawas.
Whoa, it's my main bro, Roy. How's it going, Roy? So you've been staying away from those beaches during spring break this year? Because it's not cool to go on the beaches, man. I will say it is good for the environment, because nobody's throwing nothing in the ocean right now. So I heard we're going to talk about my movie. I don't get very many movies.
No, you don't. Not a whole lot. Apparently, I've only been in 2 of these.
And I'm not even blonde in the biggest one. But anyway, just want to stop in to say, hey, I hope you give me an outrageous review.
Oh, yeah. We'll give you a fair treatment. Aquaman, everyone loves you.
I am so tired of these kids, bored out of their minds, knocking on my door. I'm trying to run a YouTube show here. Anyway. Black Manta. Nice. Yeah. So this next one we're going to go over, guys, is the Justice League Throne of Atlantis. And so this one also came out in... Oh, this one actually came out in 2015.
Yeah.
It's also PG-13. So this one, I feel like I saw it. Do you want to know the randomness that jogged my memory was the design of the Atlantean vehicles at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they're from Flashpoint.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, maybe that's
Yeah.
what was messing with my memory, because I was like, have I seen this one or have I not? I can't remember.
Yeah, same vehicles from Flashpoint. Yeah, I noticed that too right away.
But so this one is the, I guess, as much, of course, as Son of Batman is in the continuity, this one is the more true sequel to Justice League War, because it picks up pretty much not too long after, it seems like. So with this one, we get a good old Aquaman featured on the cover, so we know that even though he was left out of War and replaced with Shazam, like we were talking about last episode, it was obvious that they saved it just for this.
Yeah, and good job. Good kudos to them, because that was really good. Like, great introduction.
Oh, you mean like waiting to show him in this one, or?
Yeah, because if you remember in the last one, I mentioned that I did actually like that they did pick Shazam over Aquaman, because I kind of made fun it's Aquaman, but I mean, I think they really kind of made up for it in this one. If that doesn't spoil my review already or my rating for this, I really enjoyed it. But as much as I give him flack, I mean, they really made him interesting in this 52 universe, if he wasn't already by now. And I think it really helped lead to the movie. And actually, if you watch it, you can see some stuff they borrowed from the movie. From this animated series or film to the actual movie. Just little things here and there. It looks like everything from armor designs are definitely influenced. The enemies they fight, I don't know if that's always been his world. I'm not as familiar with Aquaman, but you definitely see some of the ideas have translated into the live action movie with Jason Momoa. And this one was actually written by Jeff Johns. And this one I'm not too familiar with. It's like Heath Carson. He does Assault on Arkham and the Justice League, the action series that's like shorts, I think. And he also did War. He also wrote on War. But not as well known to me. But Jeff Johns definitely just continuing to kill it with these stories. I really enjoyed this one.
So because I was gonna say I would almost argue that I feel like James Wan, the director of the Aquaman movie with Jason Momoa, just showed this to his crew and like, that's what I want.
Exactly.
I want y'all to make it.
Do
like
that,
don't make it too similar, because well, can we get sued with our own company? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely I definitely believe that. You joke, but I believe that I can definitely see the influences there.
And for those of y'all, just a little quick snippet in there, because I part of what I like about this and like about having you on here is that comics too. But for those of y'all who've heard Roy last episode and this episode mention Jeff Johns, he's actually a comic book writer who's responsible for really reinvigorating a lot of famous characters that had kind of lost their way, I guess, in the storytelling. If I remember the order right, he did the Flash first. He really reinvigorated the Flash. Then he reinvigorated Green Lantern. And then Aquaman is definitely on his list there as well. I know that he ended up pretty high in DC. I know he has, since his titles have changed, he's lost certain positions. I mean, I wish they would just kind of leave him up there and in charge. I feel like he'd probably help guide the live action movies a lot better. I think actually he was one of the last ones he got involved in, I think, with Shazam, if I'm not mistaken. Which of course,
you see it.
Yeah.
You see it. You see the influence there. And he's what's that guy's name from Marvel? He's that guy to DC's universe. Basically, they should put him.
Oh, Kevin Feige.
In charge of some films. Yes, he's the Kevin Feige. He's the, if you want to look at it in respects of what he did to help revive comic books and characters, he's basically the Rock or Dwayne Johnson to movie sequels as he is to these superheroes. He does such a good job. He just adds so much depth and dimension to the characters. Brings up these new stories and just makes them more interesting. And he updated them to where this isn't your father's or grandfather's Superman or Batman. And I'm sure there's a lot of naysayers, a lot of people negative comments, blah blah blah. But I mean, honestly, I think he did his job. You've got to, if you want this stuff to survive, you have to keep making it current. You've got to, every now and then, you've got to breathe life into these characters. And I think he does a fantastic job on these.
Well, the thing is too, like because he's it doesn't seem, I should say, like he's ever really had the power that Kevin Feige does.
Hmm.
I know the first time I saw his name show up was actually in the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie,
Oh God,
but
we don't
but
talk about that here.
yeah, but I don't feel like he really had the power at all in that one. I think he might have like been a consultant.
Ah,
We mentioned the Green Lantern movie and Green
Green
Lantern.
Lantern took out everybody.
No, he just died.
Oh my God,
He's like,
that
please
actually
don't.
happened.
It's like, it's like I'm okay. I'm
He
okay,
tried to
guys.
leave. He
Like, don't
tried
talk
to
about that
leave.
anymore. Like, that's why we're talking about the DC animated universe.
That's hilarious.
But anyway,
Wow.
so yeah, I just wanted to throw that tidbit in there because I really do feel like Jeff Johns deserves some kudos.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That yeah, it was a lot of similarities to the Jason Momoa movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting setup. You know, a U.S. sub is attacked in the Marianas Trench. We see that the Justice League is being set up still as a Super 7. I love that little gag that
Right. And
the logo was
yeah.
still.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I'll just mention this ahead of time that's probably going to bring my rating down a little bit is that because I've already seen the Jason Momoa movie, which I feel like they took. It's funny they took more time, but they put so much in that movie, or maybe it's just because we had spent time with the Jason Momoa Aquaman before that movie. That probably helped too. But I really feel like they kind of rushed through this a little bit with Aquaman because we do see him. We see he's a drunk. You know, that's all still kind of in line. We see Mara, you know, searching for him.
Her design. As soon as I saw her, I was like, "Oh, hey, look, it's Chun-Li." I mean, that if you really look at her outfit, that's Chun-Li's outfit. Street Fighter. Like, look
You're
at
right.
It's crazy.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, I mean, her outfit's definitely one of those that I'm sure people would complain, like her traditional outfit. But it made it to the movie. Mason made it to the Jason Momoa movie, you know, and it's not
it was
like.
cool though.
I mean, you saw the design for Talia in the last movie we just saw. It's basically the same thing, just as exposing. So anyway, but yeah, so it starts going through that kind of fast, you know, which of course these movies are only an average of 70, 80 minutes long. So I understand there's got to be an element of moving forward. But that was one thing I didn't mention with Son of Batman. I didn't feel like that one rushed. I feel like we got enough in there that it felt pretty complete.
Right. This one kind of he just knows his powers, and I mean he's introduced to Mara, but I mean like it seems like all of his powers are just kind of inherent. He just knows how to use stuff, and they only really show a flashback where he sees Queen Atlanta for a couple seconds when he goes swimming. You know, when his dad was still alive, and he's when Aquaman is still a boy, or Arthur Curry is still a boy. But unlike the movie, you know, he didn't have the training he got from Defoe's character. You know, but in this one, he can fight. He's super strong. He doesn't question it. He's just like, oh, he knows he has gills. I don't know if they in the flashback if the dad told. Oh no, he knew. I guess he did know. I take that back. He did know he was the son of Queen Atlanta. He just knows that she left them because his dad has said she left us, basically. And you learn later on why that happens. But yeah, it was interesting how they just develop his powers. Just like, oh, I can do this now. So yeah, that was interesting. They definitely rushed it.
Yeah, and I mean it's a struggle, I guess, because like you said, he already knew that he had all those powers. So again, kind of like the way that Jason Momoa's version already knew too.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they take more time too with because it's not an Aquaman-centered movie. You know, I mean, his story is the center point of it, but you still have to show the Justice League and how they're actually struggling to be a team,
right.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. So I think that's part of it. Is that because they had to take some time away to do that? Mm-hmm. I think that's why they maybe had to rush Aquaman's side of it a little bit.
Which could be why Aquaman kind of dragged some. I know a lot of people said it was super long and it seemed to drag, and I was like, well, maybe it's because they didn't know how to fill in the gaps. When Juan was like, "Hey, do that," and they were like, "Oh, but what do we do with the rest of the movie?" They just did the other stuff. Yeah, I can see that. But real quick, I wanted to go back and mention the voice actor for Aquaman. Really cool. Matt Latner, who also voiced Anakin Skywalker in Rebels and in Clone Wars. And he also has a voice credit in The Mandalorian. I'm not sure who the character is really, but that's kind of neat. Sean Astin returns for Shazam, which I love his interpretation of Shazam. So good as a boy and as he's just got, I mean, that childlike quality to him he's always had in his career, from the Goonies all the way up into Stranger Things. He's still a kid, you know. Bob Newby's superhero, you know. It's Shazam, so that was really cool to have him back. Nathan Fillion reprising his role as Green Lantern. Shamar Moore coming back as Cyborg. He's not whiny anymore. He's really stepping into this role of almost kind of being the leader, kind of next to Batman. You got Jerry O'Connell taking over for Tim Daly as Superman, which is really cool. And he pretty much voiced Superman from, I think, the next few movies. He did Hush, the Batman Hush, Death of Superman, Dark, Teen Titans. And again, one of those that I really didn't think they could replace, but really happy with the job he did for it. It was really fun. Also, Jerry O'Connell, obviously from Stand By Me, and one of my favorites, he plays Georgie as a grown-up in Big Bang Theory. He plays Sheldon Cooper's older brother, and he does a fantastic job. If you've ever watched Young Sheldon and seen what he was then to what he is now, or I guess in Big Bang Theory before it ended, fantastic job as Georgie. So I got to give him credit. The guy's super talented, but he did a great job as Superman. And you also have this guy I'm not familiar with, Christopher Gordon. He plays the Flash, but I do like his Flash, and he also does Flash pretty much through the rest of the movies, which was really good. Great voice casting on that one as well.
Yeah, I did look up, and I saw that a lot of the voice actors do carry on pretty much from here forward.
Yeah,
there's very few exceptions.
Yeah.
Do what?
It's like the new generation of the voices,
Oh, yeah.
you know, the new class, basically. And it really worked.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Cyborg when when he was on screen. I'm like, I think Roy's going to like this one better.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, he did a great job.
There was some cool little moments with him, like him literally walking through the Marianas Trench underwater.
Yeah. That was good. Now he can control the boom tubes, which is really cool. It's he just kind of inherited that from war, so we got to see that carry over. And then, oh gosh, what else? Yeah, I mean, just the again, I can't say it enough. Again, it was cast by Andrea Romano, so great job again.
I also wanted to mention too, it was interesting. I like the fact that Batman, was being his normal self and wasn't answering the call.
Yeah.
And so Green Lantern is the one who goes and gets him, which is appropriate because he's the first one that found him.
Right.
So I love how they keep that going. He calls him Spooky.
yeah. And I love the relationship. It's so funny. He cannot stand Green Lantern. He just sees him as a showboat, and he is his personality is as bright as his ring, and he's just always like just dogging him for it. And of course, then that because of that, I love the relationship it creates between the Flash and Green Lantern, who seem to be basically best friends. Good like buddy cop kind of thing. But you see this almost like jealousy or rivalry between Flash and Green Lantern now, because Batman likes the Flash, and like when they're making an analogy later on when Cyborg's showing them what happened in the sub, you see this little banter between them. They're basically like, "Oh, you're brown noser," and I mean, just stuff when the Flash is talking to Batman, and then Green Lantern says barrel roll. I mean, it's a funny relationship. I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the sub scene, because I thought that was something that was really cool, that was a little understated, but I wanted to bring it to light. The fact that, so they basically had Cyborg recreate using his recordings the sub attack to figure out who did it. And so I was like, yeah, you've got Batman, who's a well-known detective, you got Barry Allen, who's a forensics detective, you got Clark Kent, who's an investigative reporter. So I was like, of course these guys would all start analyzing it like that. So I really enjoyed that scene. It was such a simple idea, but I think it added to the character of each one of them, because I can see them doing that.
Right. Well, there's even a mention of by Superman when they're looking at what's his name's office, the guy that's been spying on Arthur Curry the whole time. They go and they look at his office, and Batman even tells him, he's like, "Don't touch anything." And And Clark's like, I'm a reporter. And he's just like, I mean, it's just funny. Again, it's that relationship between them. Batman's basically like, you're so dumb, Clark. You're just this big muscle, head that doesn't know anything. But they actually do show Superman. He does something real quick and he's actually able to help the case. So I thought that was funny. But you still have that Batman Superman relationship even in this 52, where he's just like, I'm the detective, you're the muscle. Just stand there and look stupid. And if I need your help, I'll call you until you beat somebody up, basically.
Yeah. I liked that Wonder Woman recognized the Atlanteans. So it obviously shows that they had history with them, which of course was shown in Flashpoint.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that, of course, we saw in the after credit scene in Justice League War that Orm, Aquaman's brother, was upset because the king was killed, I guess, during the attack or the battle against Darkseid.
Right.
So that was a nice carryover. Almost reminded me of the whole Black Panther thing in Marvel, since his dad was killed in the middle of all that. So they show that Black Manta is actually working with Orm in this one. So this was a deviation from the Jason Momoa movie that I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. I almost got this sense that Black Manta was like the Darth Vader to Orm's Grand Moff Tarkin, because he was being subservient to Orm. He kept calling him my liege and things like that.
Right.
But as we find out later, is actually Black Manta was pulling the strings the whole time.
Manipulates them, yeah. And two of those guys, speaking of Orm, voiced by Sam Witwer, if you're familiar with him, Darth Maul in, was it Rebels? And I'm guessing Clone Wars as well. He was in, what was that game, the Jedi game?
Force Unleashed.
Yeah, Force Unleashed. He plays the apprentice, Darth Vader's apprentice. So again, great voice casting on that. And then Henry Lennox plays Black Manta. He's got kind of a smaller role as far as what he's done, but I believe he played the general or whatever he was, Swanwick in Superman, if I'm not mistaken. So that was kind of cool. Who else? Trying to think. John Henry Irons, we see later on. He plays. We see a glimpse, which comes in to play later. He plays John Henry Irons, which is kind of cool. He actually is saved by Superman in this, so we get to see him later on. So he was played by Carrie Payton as well, the King Ezekiel. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I love that they were planting the seeds for the Superman movies that come almost 3 or 4 years after this. So so that was nice. Let's see here. Kind of want to speed through this a little bit because we're already pushing almost an hour. Of course, there was.
Keep knocking on your door.
I know, right? Yeah, I was gonna say there's a couple of time spurts there that I could probably cut out. So basically, Orm, makes it look like a U.S. submarine has attacked the Atlanteans,
right?
And so from there, of course, he's meant to rally the troops. Mm-hmm. We see Mera is like the waterbender from hell, basically. The way she can manipulate water.
Powerful. Yeah, very.
The way Aquaman gets his suit in this is a little funny, because they're like, "What's that suit? Oh, that's the one your dad wore or whatever." He puts it on, and then he's just like, "I don't want this." It throws off all the armor, but just happens to leave the green and the orange on.
Well, and that's the theme throughout the whole movie. If you look at it, when he goes swimming, he's wearing green and orange trunks. When later in the movie, he's wearing green and orange again. I mean, so it's funny. It's throughout the movie, and it reminded me a lot of like. Smallville. They had a knack for doing that. Whenever a character would come on cameo, especially Justice League, they would be wearing their colors, just like Clark always wore blue and red. So I thought that was kind of I like it. It was an homage to that stuff.
Because I forgot in the Jason Momoa movie, how did he get it in there? I already forgot.
He has to actually go and visit the throne of some. I don't know if it was the king before him, if it was his father, or at least the king of Atlantis. And like you had to fight the Kraken or whatever that thing was, the Cthulhu, whatever it was, the giant, Leviathan, I think it was. You had to fight the Leviathan to obtain the armor. It's kind of like pulling the sword from the stone kind of scenario, and basically inherit the armor. And many warriors had tried before him to gain the the trident, because in there you actually had to get the trident to rule the seven seas instead of Orm just having it and his mom having it. It was actually kind of like this challenge, like if you're worthy kind of thing. So yeah, so he takes on Leviathan and obtains it in the movie.
Speaking of talking to fish, Aquaman does get to talk to fish in this one.
Talks to fish, yeah, and he fights Cthulhu. He fights the water Cthulhu or whatever that thing is underwater. I was surprised at how quickly Orm was able to defeat the Justice League. I mean, he beat the hell out of him super fast.
Yeah, I knew you were going to catch that.
Yeah, and I was just like, Wonder Woman, really? And then Superman, it was just so easy. I didn't see how he got injured though. I didn't see how he got like, 'cause he's bleeding. But I thought maybe, I mean, I know Superman's always been susceptible to magic, and it seems to carry over into the 52 universe. But I didn't miss that part. I just noticed he was bleeding. I was like, okay. But yeah, he went through them so fast. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I knew you were going to catch that. So I was just like, really?
Yeah.
But it was just, again, I feel like they were just trying to move the story along. But yeah, after all that, Orm gets the army and starts attacking the land, but of course, back underwater, Aquaman helps the Justice League to escape. The Trench are actually in this, but on this one, they've made a deal with Orm, which I thought was interesting because in the Aquaman movie, and I think even in the comics, they're portrayed as more like animals.
Yeah,
like
a little more savage, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in order to make a deal with them, you would have to assume some sort of sentience,
Yeah. I will say there was an interesting voice cameo in this one. I don't know what a drift leader is, if that was those things, or if that was, it just says drift leader, but it was actually voiced by Michael Rosenbaum, whoever the drift leader was, who, if you know the Justice League history, the animated series, he actually played the original Flash. So I thought that was kind of cool that he made a nice little, there's a small voice cameo, whatever a drift leader is.
Well, I know you like looking for your Andrea Romano cameos.
Yes.
She was the old Atlantean woman.
Yeah, I always like looking to find out who she played. And like I said, I am so bad at getting voices. Like, it's one of my weaknesses. But so it's always like a nice little Easter egg hunt to find out, like, oh, that's who that was. And it's a blessing that occurs because sometimes I cannot let it go. Like, I'm thinking about the entire film and I just miss it. So sometimes I will stop a film and look it up. Like, all right, who is this? Because it's killing me. But yeah, I like finding hers is one of those Easter eggs I really enjoy finding in the movies.
Aquaman does quote his outrageous quote, which I guess that's more of a Brave and the Bold cartoon thing, isn't it?
Which one?
For Aquaman to say outrageous. Isn't that from the Brave and the Bold?
That is Brave and the Bold, but I didn't even catch it in this one. Wow.
Yeah. So towards the end, Batman, being Batman, he figures out the way to beat Orm, and he even says we're not going to punch him, into submission. Basically,
I love how he's like, "Don't make this a learning experience." I love that. I think that was Cyborg that said that. That's hilarious. Or Green Lantern said that, which is great. Don't make this a learning experience.
Yeah, but basically they play. I guess at some point Orm confessed to the murder of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Which forgot to mention he did. That's how he took control of the army. But right. But yeah, so he plays it on all the Atlanteans, turn on him. And so this was the part where my copy was messing up. So Orm, how is he defeated and then Black Manta defeated?
So that's one of the cooler deaths, if you will. I don't know if it's a death, but of course, like villains do, Black Manta goes on this tirade about, his plan and what he did, blah, blah, blah. Aquaman basically calls up Jaws from the ocean, and he eats Black Manta. It was awesome. It's hilarious.
Oh, okay.
I started cracking up. He just in the middle of his speech. The shark comes up and takes out Black Manta, which was hilarious. Orm again, after escaping the Cthulhu underwater, the Justice League fights Orm again and again. He kicks their butt so quick. It's ridiculous. He just takes them out. And then Aquaman, I guess because this is supposed to be his movie, does exactly what everyone else does, except he actually hurts Orm. He beats him up, and he's fighting him to a standstill. And then just when it looks like Orm's about to beat him, that's when I believe Cyborg broadcasts the whole, I killed the queen, message. And of course the Atlanteans turn on him, and Aquaman just knocks him out basically, and he's imprisoned. You find out later he's imprisoned.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that money shot. He punches him, and his mask finally breaks.
Yeah, it breaks the mask. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, it was just another beat down to the Justice League. I mean, he whooped everyone's butt. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. So after that, the Justice League agrees to stay together. Cyborg even mentions having plans for a watchtower, which was a nice little nod.
That's a setup. Yeah.
But all in all, so we'll go and move to ratings. I think I'm just going to settle on a 7 out of 10, just because I feel like the Aquaman part was a little bit weaker. The Justice League part was really nice. That was a more actual continuation from War, which I also gave the same. So I guess just between War and this one so far, I guess with these group movies, it just seems like a balancing issue, I guess, for me. In order to give it a higher rating. I mean, I'm still enjoying them. Don't get me wrong; they're good movies, but it just seems like the other ones where we focused more. Which is well, it's funny to say because we talked about how just Flashpoint Paradox had so many characters, but they did balance them all really well and carried that story forward really well. It's just I don't know. It's one of those things you really want to pick it apart to figure it out.
And unfortunately, I think what have maybe helped your rating is if Canterbury Cricket had made a cameo in this one.
Well, you set him up in Flashpoint Paradox, and I'm already 3 movies later, and he's still not here. I understand building suspense. I mean, maybe they're going to build it all the way into Apokolips War.
He's going to be the key to Apokolips War. It's going to be him.
Sorry, did we spoil it? We've already figured it out. So it's like the Justice League is laying defeated.
I'm waiting for Justice League Canterbury Cricket. I'm waiting for that one.
That's after Apokolips War.
There you go.
He's the only survivor. So
there you go. Well, so you said 7. I tend to agree with you on this one. Yeah. What I liked about it, again, I can't go without saying the voice casting again, stellar. It really helps the rating. Honestly, it bumps it up to like 6, 7 right off the bat. The story was rushed, so I gave it like an 8. Action though, the fighting sequences and stuff, you call it fighty. If you look at the choreography, I don't know if it's the same guys that like helped with Avatar, because some of the choreography is fantastic. Like, and it almost looked like rotoscoping for a second, especially when Aquaman and Orm fight, and when he's fighting those guys at the beginning as Arthur Curry. There's some really good fights and some really cool. Looks like actual fighting moves that would really work, but with superpowers that were really good. But yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately, yeah, the story, I guess, is kind of what makes it suffer just a little bit. It's really good. I mean, I praise Jeff Johns. It's just, I think it was a little rushed, and you don't really get an explanation as to how Arthur Curry knows he has these powers, that he can talk to fish. He just like all of a sudden knows it. I almost want to give it an 8 on this one. Yeah, but I guess I'm trying to think how much I was enjoying. No, I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to give it an 8. I still enjoyed it enough. I think what really helps it is the casting and just the action for me, and the animation again is absolutely superb. I'll give it an 8 for that alone. And again, just some nice little cameos here and there sprinkled throughout. Matter of fact, one of the big ones I want to talk about was Steve Bloom, who played Lex Luthor in the end credits. Is an amazing voice actor. And I just wanted to mention, if you guys want to get into voice acting, he's actually hosting a online class right now for free. I believe it's this weekend. I think there's one like at 6 o'clock today. But anyways, really good voice actor, has a ton of credits, been doing it for like 30 plus years. Overall, I give it an 8. I really enjoyed this one. I want to go 7, but I think 8. It deserves an 8.
So then I did miss an end credit scene.
Yes, real quick. They basically almost like the Iron Man kind of end credit. You've got Orm. He's locked up in prison. He's basically telling people, I'm the king of Atlantis. You won't treat me this way. He's like locked up somewhere, some federal prison or something. And it's funny because at this scene, they're basically giving him his lunch, and they give him fish, which I thought was hilarious. And he just looks down at it. He's like, and he gets all mad. And he actually has a built-in tank, like a aqua tank of some kind, which I thought that was really like, who is paying for this? Whose tax dollars are paying for this? Because this dude has a freaking aquarium in his cell. I mean, obviously he needs it, but so he jumps in there, he's yelling at the guard, and all of a sudden Lex Luthor comes walking in out of the shadows, and he basically tells him, I have a proposition for you. And that's how it ends. But that was played by Steve Bloom, which was really cool.
Cool. Yeah, I did let it run for a while, unless maybe my copy cut it off before then. I don't know. But yeah, that's nice to still have those. And again, obvious that they had this plan from the beginning. So anyway, guys, we do appreciate you watching these longer videos. We know that committing to an hour is a lot more than what I normally do, but for all intents and purposes, we're talking about two separate movies, so you can kind of think about it. It's like combining two episodes, and it also is because Apokolips War is coming in May, so we're trying to get these done before we get there. So just want to say thank you to those of you who subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I did link below to Roy's toy box, so that way you can check out his awesome figure photography that he's been doing lately. He's been playing with Warble a lot too, so you get some cool effects.
Yes. That was so much fun. That new mask feature on Warble, oh my gosh, it's a life changer right there, or actually a game changer. Excuse me. Yeah.
But yeah, if you like this video, hit like. Definitely keep up with the other ones we have coming down the pipe. And for those of you who don't follow us on our social media, check it out down below. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.